The NBA trade market just exploded. A massive three-team blockbuster has reshaped the league, sending De'Aaron Fox to the Spurs, Zach LaVine to the Kings, and a flurry of picks and players on the move. Brace yourself, NBA fans. This trade is game-changing. The Sacramento Kings, San Antonio Spurs, and Chicago Bulls just pulled off a high-stakes, franchise-altering swap that could reshape the Western Conference for years to come. The NBA trade machine is going full blast, and this newest move is for the books. Zach LaVine is going to Sacramento, while De'Aaron Fox is going to the San Antonio Spurs to pair up with the rising star Victor Wembanyama in an incredible three-team trade. The Chicago Bulls are finally thinking about their future, but in a different way. At first glance, this trade appears to be a tough situation for Chicago to accept. LaVine is still putting up impressive numbers, averaging around 25 points and 5 assists per game, while shooting an incredible 56% from two-point range and 44.6% from three-point range, despite all the complaints about his deal. Yes, his contract is not exactly favorable for the organization. He is owed $95 million over the next 2 seasons after this one. But for the time being, he is playing at a level that justifies the expense. The problem is that the Bulls remain still for an excessive amount of time. Before last season, there were likely better deals available, yet by delaying their feet, they have put themselves in a situation where obtaining their own first-round pick in 2025 feels like a win. In fact, Chicago had to give away a player of LaVine's caliber in order to regain control of their own draft destiny. In theory, the action gives the Bulls the freedom to rebuild in the right way. By regaining full control of their draft picks for the 2026 and 2027 seasons, they are no longer subject to the unpredictability of draft protections. However, the return package itself is not that inspiring. Giving up Sacramento's second-round pick in 2028 and taking back contracts like Zach Collins and Kevin Huerter, neither of which really changes the needle, doesn't exactly scream smart asset management. Finally, the Bulls will save around $10 million in salary for next season, and more importantly, avoid LaVine's massive $49 million player option in 2026-27. While it isn't exactly a home run, that is a positive aspect. If Huerter can get back to his previous level of top movement shooting, he may become a valuable asset in a trade down the line. Chicago may also be able to create a significant traded player exception, which would be beneficial in future dealings. In the end, this transaction is more about what the Bulls are signaling than about what they have gained. They are beginning to embrace change. This might just be the start of a long-awaited demolition. It is yet uncertain whether this will lead to better decision-making in the future, but for the time being, Bulls supporters will have to remain optimistic that this major reset will be beneficial in the long run. The Sacramento Kings have already made some wild selections, but this one could be the finest of all. In a surprising move, the Kings moved De'Aaron Fox, who is considered the cornerstone of their organization, to San Antonio in exchange for Zach LaVine. On paper, LaVine's scoring abilities and shooting touch seem like a perfect match for DeMar DeRozan and Domantas Sabonis. However, if you examine a little further, this transaction starts to look a lot more questionable. To be clear, Fox was the heart and spirit of the Kings. Selling him off would be a huge upheaval for the entire identity of the franchise, not just for the roster. Despite his scoring skills, LaVine is not as good as the other players when it comes to leadership, playmaking, and defense. The Kings are plainly struggling in that area, even though DeRozan, Sabonis, and Malik Monk can help make up for some of the missed playmaking. The primary question is whether this measure will eventually benefit Sacramento. The club still has enough firepower to remain competitive in the near future, but is it a team that can cause a disruption in the playoffs? Things become unclear at that moment. DeRozan's efficiency normally decreases when he plays against top-tier opponents. Monk has never had to be the primary offensive player in high-pressure circumstances. LaVine is a talented scorer, but he is not particularly known for producing when it matters most. The situation becomes considerably more dangerous from a defensive standpoint. Sacramento has recently lost a key perimeter defender in Fox. Now, Keon Ellis and Keegan Murray, two strong but inexperienced players in high-pressure situations, will take the spotlight. Although Devin Carter's arrival is beneficial, the Kings are continuing their trend of ignoring their most critical needs, wing depth and a backup big, in order to maintain the current state of affairs. The return package is probably the most frustrating thing that Kings supporters have to deal with. Sacramento did not get the chance to acquire San Antonio's most promising young players. For the short term, there isn't even a good first-round pick. The most valuable part of the agreement is a Minnesota pick from 2031, which is 6 years in the future. What is Charlotte's choice? It's basically the same as 2 second-round picks. Is it the first from San Antonio in 2027? At best, you might be a late first rower. That is not the type of return you're looking for when you are dealing away your franchise point guard. For a team that should be prioritizing long-term success, this appears to be a sideways move rather than a stride in the right direction. Sacramento has the opportunity to start again and make preparations for the future, but instead they have chosen a path that allows them to remain competitive without addressing their most serious shortcomings. The Kings were not in this position. They have arrived at this point because of poor decisions and bad roster management. They are now facing the consequences. Even while there is a possibility that this deal may be successful, it is hard to shake the feeling that Sacramento has sacrificed its future for a short-term mediocre outcome. And that is a hard pill to swallow. San Antonio is putting on a show, and this one is a real showstopper. In a major 3-team trade, the Spurs have sent away Zach Collins, C.D. Sissoko, and Trey Jones, and have brought in De'Aaron Fox and Jordan McLaughlin. The Spurs are also sending a number of draft picks. Charlotte's first-round pick in 2025, lottery protected. Chicago's first-round pick in 2025, top 10 protected. Chicago's second-round pick in 2025. Denver's first-round pick in 2027, unprotected. Denver's second-round pick in 2028, top 33 protected. And Minnesota's first-round pick in 2031, unprotected. At first, it appears that paying 4 first-round picks, 2 of which are unprotected, is a steep cost. However, if you look a little further, the price appears to be less extreme. Charlotte's selection is more likely to become 2 second-round picks than a valuable asset. The Bulls may have retained their first-round pick in 2025 if they had been more savvy in their management of the season. Because of the way protections and club paths affect things, the Spurs' first-round pick in 2025 is actually more valuable than their outgoing selection in 2027. In short, San Antonio sacrificed some of their draft money, but they retained their most valuable assets for the future. Maybe the largest victory is this Collins' contract, which was dragging down the Spurs financially, was offloaded. They also kept all of their Atlanta Hawks picks, kept swap rights on Sacramento's 2031 first-rounder, and, above all, kept on to all of their top young prospects. Minnesota's 2031 first-rounder is the most striking outgoing component, but given Anthony Edwards is in Minnesota, it's unlikely to be a high pick anytime soon. The actual argument is over fit. Some would wonder whether San Antonio should have concentrated more on raising their draft lottery chances this season, or whether Fox is the appropriate backcourt mate for Victor Wembanyama. Still, there is a solid argument for hope. Although Fox is not a top 3-point shooter, he is deadly in other spheres. More than 50% of his floaters, over 35% of his step-back triples, and shockingly, 46% of his pull-ups are knocked down. The Spurs, whose half-court attack has been middle of the pack, especially while Wembanyama is off the floor, would find his ability to break down defenses to be revolutionary. The extension Fox is qualified to sign this summer locks him in through his prime years, even if you worry his game depends too much on athleticism. and the Spurs still have lots of assets to keep expanding around Wemby. 6 of their next 7 first-round selections, own 2 from Atlanta, 2025 and 2027, and have key pick exchanges with Boston in 2028, Dallas or Minnesota in 2030, and Sacramento in 2031. To put it simply, San Antonio is acting with long-term perspective. Fox offers instant firepower, and the Spurs still have the freedom to keep molding their roster into a contender. This is about crafting something unique for the future, not only about the present. So, who do you think came out on top? Did the Spurs make the right move pairing Fox with Wembanyama? Will LaVine thrive with the Kings? And did the Bulls get enough in return? Drop your takes in the comments below. If you enjoyed this breakdown, make sure to hit that like button, subscribe for more in-depth NBA analysis, and turn on notifications so you never miss an update on the latest trades and rumors.